Thank you. The Chamber's slogan is, "We make Utah Valley a better place." The Chamber Board of Directors believes that one way to do that is to have our organization play a more prominent role in the civic and political process. We are hosting this debate here in Orem, and then next week we'll be hosting a debate in Provo, and plan to be very active politically at the local, county, and the state level. We want to make certain that this very important voice of the Utah Valley business community is heard in making policy decisions in our communities and throughout the state. Tonight it's my pleasure to introduce our debate moderator, Mark Robinson. Mark is a former chair of the Chamber Board of Directors and has been an active member on the Public Policy Committee for the board. He is Orem through and through. In 2004, he and his wife, Mary, received the Walter C. Orem Award for Distinguished Service to Orem. He works as an attorney here locally when he's not out playing golf or finding some stream to fly fish. Mark, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you and welcome everyone, and especially to these wonderful candidates. It takes an awfully lot to be willing to sacrifice your life to do public service. Well, thanks to each of you. I couldn't help but notice as I was driving in the sunset, the Mount Timpanogos and Cascade Mountain in the background, and the sun with a little snow on top, the fall colors. My wife and I bought our first home here in Orem about a block from here. So this is kind of our neighborhood. And we've lived here in Orem all our lives. As I'm driving along and I'm seeing our tree-lined, well-lit streets, and I think of the services that we receive without really giving it much thought. Our water turns on and works great, and the electricity and the garbage gets taken and the streets work, and we live in a place of peace and liberty. And I was both proud and grateful to be a resident of this great city. And we stand on the shoulders of many great leaders who've gone before. And I'm especially welcome each of you who have taken your time tonight to come and listen to each of these candidates, learn of them and of their positions and of the things they will do. The format that we will follow, we'll do let the mayors go first. We'll give them each 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Then there are some questions that have been put together for them. You'll have an opportunity, if you choose, to write down some questions that you'll have, and we'll hopefully get time to ask some of them. To make sure everything's fair, oh, is that a golf ball? Oh, great, thanks, Val. So I'll draw from the magic golf ball a name, and that name will be the one that will start and go first, and I'll do the same when we get to the others. But so, are you ready, everyone? Okay, our first mayoral candidate will be Richard Brunst. You'll get to go first. Please step up to the main podium and give your 2 minutes, followed by Chris.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you, Val, and the Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to come and speak with the citizens of Orem. 2 years ago, Dave Spencer, who's running for City Council, asked me to attend a City Council meeting where they were discussing parking, baseball issues, and so forth. I went down there and I saw some things that I had concerns with, and so I decided to start attending. I have raised my family here in Orem. We built our home here 22 years ago. My beautiful wife Tammy and I designed it ourselves, and we have 4 great children. I would love to see and want to see Orem stay the best place to raise families as it grows over the next many years. But we're going to need to solve some problems to make sure that this happens. I'm running for mayor because I was there at the Truth and Taxation meeting and watched hundreds of people complain and show concern over a tax increase. And I felt like that the tax increase went forward, but we worked hard to cut it in half but it's still on the ballot, and I'm working hard to not see that pass. I am against the tax increase. I'm running for mayor because I've watched businesses come down there and complain about unfriendly practices here within Orem, sign ordinances that have restricted their sales, property tax increases proposed that could cause them problems financially. I'm running for mayor because the city government, I believe, needs to involve the citizens more, to inform, to let them know of what's going on, to get them involved. I've been accused of focusing on issues, but I will continue to work on issues to make sure that Orem is a great place to live. I love Orem. It's a great city. We have many benefits, and I appreciate the opportunity to run for mayor. Thank you.
I'd just like to echo my thankfulness for the Chamber for putting on this event and for you all coming out this evening. I know you've got a lot of busy things happening in your life. I hope those Survivor fans out there are DVRing the show tonight. So it's hard to believe we're back here on this stage already. It seems just not long ago that we were all up here with very little elbow room with all of the primary candidates. And I couldn't agree more with Mark when he said that we live in such a great and wonderful city. Orem truly is a great place. And Mark also mentioned how hard it is to run for office, and I'd like to echo that as well. I know my wife and daughter consistently wonder where I'm going to be every other Tuesday night, and it's usually at a work session meeting and then council meeting. So let's give a big round of applause to all these candidates for sticking their neck out because they believe they can make Orem a better place. And in particular, I want to thank Dick Brunst. He mentioned that he's focused on issues, and Dick has done a tremendous job in his campaigning on doing just that and focusing on the issues, and I thank you for that, Dick. I have a great job. I love my job. I help people experience the American dream of homeownership. And that job consists mainly of dealing with negotiations. There's always problems that pop up in any real estate transaction, in any deal. And the goal of a real estate agent is to bring both parties together for a common sense solution. And it truly is the greatest job on earth, in my opinion. Last week, though, a well-known realtor here in our state did something really interesting. He used those same skills that he learned as a realtor to negotiate the reopening of our national parks. Governor Herbert has said many times that being a realtor has made him a better governor, and I plan to bring these same problem-solving skills from my real estate career to the office of mayor. I want to make our city even better than it is now, and I think we can do that together. Thank you.
Now we're going to begin with the questions, and I'll draw again for the order that will go in. Maybe I ought to let you draw. You're first in line. Go ahead and draw.
Well, I drew myself, so.
Well, good for you. Then you get to go first. The Chamber of Commerce is very interested, Mr. Brunst, in economic development. Many Utah Valley communities have become very aggressive in their economic development efforts in an attempt to lure businesses into their communities, sometimes to the harm of existing businesses that are already there. What's your philosophy regarding the correct approach and the approach you would take to economic development to grow existing businesses and bring new businesses to Orem?
Thank you for that question. I'm a business owner. I've owned my own business for over 28 years. I've started 2 other businesses, a real estate appraisal business and a plastic recycling business besides my own pipe company. Economic development is very important to me. This last Monday, I drove to Salt Lake. As I drove to Salt Lake, I passed by 3 brand new buildings, 1 in Pleasant Grove and 2 in Lehigh. Those were all businesses started within the last several years here in Orem and have moved out of the city. To me, that needs to stop. We need to take care of the businesses that we have. Orem is the #1 economic business incubator in Utah Valley. It's important that we work hard with that. We need to bring businesses into Orem. We need to keep our taxes low. We need to be business friendly, but we also need to take care of the businesses that we have. It's rather interesting that Provo 4 years ago was stagnating. They changed their mayor, they changed their city council, they became business friendly, and they kept their taxes low, they cut the red tape, and they worked with the businesses to find out their needs. I have been doing the same thing. I have met with the Mountain Land Association of Governments on microloans and startup. I've met with Russell Fotheringham the Utah County Development Manager, and gone over businesses that are interested in this area. I've met with the Utah Valley Utah Small Business Development Center. I've spoken with President Matt Holland of UVU about business and UVU partnering, and I've spoken with Jeff Howlett of the Marriott School of Management and Mentoring. You have to understand that I'm a person that likes to get out and do things. I have met with a telecommunications company that needed developers and needed a business. I put them together with UVU in a mentoring program and a intern program whereby UVU is supplying interns to this business. I've just met this week with a electric motor company that received a $20 million contract from California, and they have needs, and I've given them suggestions on how to find those needs. I am one that takes action. I believe that we have great businesses right here in Orem that we need to take care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols, the same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, I think I'm good. Economic development is key to my plan. In fact, my acronym for my campaign is LEAD, and the E in the LEAD stands for economic development. Similar to building a house, you have to use the right tools for the right job. Tax incremental financing is just one of those tools. I'm glad Dick mentioned Provo. I'm actually endorsed by Provo Mayor John Curtis. He's a good friend of mine. 3 years ago, when John was trying to figure out how to solve problems along the Center Street corridor in Provo, I came to him with an idea. The idea was crowdsourcing, and we did a program called I Wish This Was. We put several of these stickers on vacant businesses along with pins where people were able to write what they wish was in that location. It was a huge economic boon to the Center Street area, and several new businesses came in as a result of this program. I want to implement this same program right here in Orem. We have the Business Resource Center at UVU, which is Orem City is a partner with. I want to create an Economic Development Advisory Council, which consists of the smartest business leaders in our city to help incubate businesses, to help start businesses. Just last week, I met with Ryan Clark, who is the head of the Orem's Economic Development Division. He shared with me a 3-page brief. There are incredible things happening right here in Orem. We are on the cusp of a very bright future in our city. For example, the University Mall expansion. You're going to hear more and more about that. In fact, I met with Woodbury just last week, and they're going to start having public meetings to share their plan and vision with you. Another neat thing is the 1 million square foot business park. In fact, I was recently received the support of Deloy Hansen, who's part of that park. Our business development services at Orem City, they actually have a map that identifies properties that are available for economic development. But one of the things that scares economic development away is political turmoil. We have to stop the political turmoil here in Orem. Now is the time to get serious about Orem's economic development for the long term. One of my favorite Chinese proverbs is, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, the second best time to plant a tree is now. We need to plant that economic development tree. Thank you.
Candidates, there is on the ballot a proposal to renew Orem's cultural arts and recreation enrichment tax, the CARE tax, for another 10 years. Tell us your views on that and what your thoughts are. Mr. Brown.
We're just going to alternate. So the CARE tax is really a ballot issue. It's really up to the voters to decide whether they want to be taxed for it or not. If it passes, I'll do everything I can to support it. I would suggest that we work to administer it evenly, fairly, and correctly. I would put together a citizens committee together with the Arts Council and the Orem Advisory Recreation Committee, together with the City Council, to put together a strategic plan to donate fairly to both the arts and the recreation. If it's not passed, then I'll work hard to help raise funds for the arts, such as has been done in Springville. Out in front of the Sierra, there's a brick there with the company name of Western Pipe Coaters. I donated to the Sierra. I helped to raise funds and gave them to the Sierra many years ago. My son volunteered at the Sierra and worked there. The Sierra is a great place, and I very much appreciate Adam Robertson and what he has done with the Sierra. I believe that we need to support that as much as possible. I love the Storytelling Festival and attended the Last Laugh this year. My family's enjoyed sports at all the different areas. My son has worked as an umpire. He's also worked at the Snack Shack for Orem Youth Baseball. My daughters played soccer at Lakeside Sports Fields. So I love the sports, the recreation, and the arts. It's really up to the people of Orem to decide. Of the 26 cities in Utah County, only 2 have a tax like the CARE tax. These two have the highest sales tax in the county. Springville supports their arts through a program of donation, through government funding, and through personal funding and through events. I believe that if the care tax does not pass, that we can do the same. I'm in favor of the vote coming from the public on the care tax, and I will support it whichever way it goes. Thank you.
Well, as Mr. Bruntz mentioned, it is your vote. It is your decision on November 5th. I'd encourage you to carefully consider the benefits that we have had from the care tax here in Orem. In fact, there's a booth right here at the back. I highly encourage you to go back there and talk with them. Visit the website carefororem.org to learn more. CARE has provided funding for arts and rec programs, events, and venues that have been vital to our city. These bring sales tax dollars from both residents as well as non-residents alike. They come here, they spend money in our restaurants, they buy gas, they shop. It generates more sales tax dollars for our city. In fact, back there at the care tax table, you'll see a rendition of what the rec center is about to undergo, a refurbishment and a new indoor pool with an expansion and improvement to that pool. It's really neat to see what's happening with those care tax dollars. Mr. Bruntz mentioned evenly distributing those funds. I think it was a little over a month ago in a work session meeting, the Arts Council and the Recreation Advisory Commission came together and they gave recommendations as to how to improve how the council allocates those funds. So I think we are going to see tremendous improvement in the allocation of those funds. My last point is that CARE improves our quality of life, and I hope that the citizens of Orem vote to extend the CARE tax. It does great things in our city. Thank you.
Proposition number 2 on the ballot has the tax word in it. That's a toughie. The City Council has passed a resolution to raise our property taxes $1,700,000 per year. My question is, what are your thoughts on that proposition? For, against, and why?
Thank you. My thoughts on that is that I am not in favor of the property tax increase. I have fought for the reduction of the property tax increase in the Truth in Taxation meeting last year. I met with the City Council individually and with the mayor and with the manager requesting that they cut the property tax in half, the proposed property tax in half, and cut the fees down. When it came to the Truth in Taxation meeting, and I am not on the legislative end of Orem city government, but they went ahead and did that. They then were trying to figure out how they could support that. I stood up and suggested that if they looked at the reserves of Orem City, we're required to have a 5% reserve in the budget. We had a 9%. That's $1.5 million difference. That suggestion was taken, and they went ahead and cut the property tax in half. Now, that was from a 50% increase to a 25% increase. So on the ballot this year, we have the right to go ahead and vote on that remaining 25%. My family took out petitions to gather for the referendum to put this vote to the people. I believe the people have the right to vote for this. You should be aware that the sales tax revenue in 2003 in Orem was $13 million. In 2005, it was $15 million. 2007, we had a spike, which people like to use as a basis, but if you've ever invested in stocks or worked in business, you realize you look at trends, you don't look at spikes. So from 2005 at $15 million, our revenue right now on sales tax is $17 million. Sales tax has gone up $1.6 million in the last 2 years. Franchise tax has gone up $500,000 in the last 2 years. Property tax has gone up almost that same amount in the last 2 years. Our net revenues have gone up $5.2 million in 2012. Whether you realize it or not, the revenues for the government of Orem, the government funds, have gone up over 40% the last 10 years. The citizens of Orem, their average household income has gone down 2.5% in the last 10 years. I believe there's nothing that justifies a property tax increase at this time. Our revenues are up. I'm against it. Thank you.
I want to involve the audience on this one, not just with clapping, if that's all right. I actually want to see hands. How many of you want a canned, polished political response to this question? How many of you want the truth? I like that. So let's get rid of the canned response. The truth is, it's your decision. So by a show of hands, how many of you plan to vote no on the property tax increase on November 5th? And that's your answer. My plan has been from the very beginning to focus on economic development. We need to return our sales tax revenues to pre-recession levels, and if we aren't going to raise revenue via property tax side, then we need to focus on economic development. We need to ensure that our revenues are where they need to be to meet our obligations and to properly fund our public safety and to replace, repair, and maintain our aging infrastructure. It's that simple. Thank you.
You've all heard this word before, and you're going to hear it again now. Utopia. So, we're obligated on a bond. Most of us wish it was working a little better than it is. I know I'm having trouble signing up or getting any utility out of it. What are you going to do? How are you going to solve it?
Thank you. I think that's the biggest question facing Orem today is Utopia. Utopia was started with good intentions back in 2002. It was funded with $85 million. Then it was refinanced with another $100 million. We then refinanced with UIA, a different portion of Utopia for the construction side, with an additional $65 million proposed dollars. Of that $65 million, we gave $29.5 million in 2011, and in 2013, just this year, we've given them another $24.5 million. By the time Utopia is fully financed with the remaining $11 million, the city of Orem is going to owe $116 million, that's you and I, over the next 27 years that we have to pay, and our children and our children's children have to pay that. That is equal to half of the net worth of the city of Orem. Something needs to be done. This year alone, I stood up, the city council wrote off $1.8 million worth of Utopia debt. In the same meeting, 2 hours later, there were only about 8 or 10 of us there, they then gave them another $250,000 loan. No bank does that. No business does that. So they've given them $825,000 in operating expense. They've written off $1.8 million in debt, and we've given them new debt of $5.8 million out of the $24.5 million for the 11 cities. So over $8 million has gone to Utopia this year in Orem. That would pay for the Center for Story and Fire Station number 4, which we need complete. So my program is, the first thing I would do is I would change management. Second of all, I would put in a true industry board of professionals, not just city council people. As good as they are, we need the expertise of professionals. Third, I would put it in a maintenance mode. That is not going dark, that is maintenance mode, and service the customers we have. And fourth, I would go ahead and get private industry involved. I have already done that. I've contacted 3 companies that I've been talking to about having an interest in Utopia, and they purchase other fiber companies. I'm taking action on it, and we're going to solve it. Thank you.
And I agree with Mr. Brunst on solving the problem. A realtor colleague of mine was recently diagnosed with cancer earlier this year, and he didn't focus on the how or why of how he got cancer. He focused on the solution with his doctor. And we need to stop rehashing the how and why of this decade-old decision. As Mark mentioned, we're obligated. The obligation is there. One of the problems with going dark is it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts. There's actually only 2 solutions to Utopia. One is we need to find a partner like Google, similar to what Provo did. I actually had a meeting with the Google Fiber folks. They're very interested in Orem, but there's things that we need to do to make that work for Google. There's also other private enterprises, which Mr. Brunst mentioned. In fact, I've met regularly with Utopia CEO Todd Marriott. He's actively working on solving these problems. So either we find a partner to partner with and make Utopia successful, or we focus on the long-term build-out and build our subscriber base. Those are essentially the 2 solutions. In addition to that, Todd is also working on a $100 million lawsuit. One of the things that wasn't mentioned by Mr. Brunst is that the federal government reneged on their obligation, and Utopia is currently suing the federal government for $100 million on that RUS fund issue. The legislative audit last year found 4 recommendations. Mr. Marriott has implemented all 4 of those. Within that audit, they mentioned that his management has improved things at Utopia. Get out of Utopia and going dark was not one of the recommendations because the state legislature knows that that's not a solution. We need to look at the future of what Utopia can and will be. It's an incredible asset to our citizens and our businesses. It'll spur even more economic development. If you look at the Google Fiber project in Provo, they're not going to businesses. They don't have a business model currently. Utopia does have a business model here in Orem. Another thing is Utopia has created a level playing field for local businesses to compete against the larger monopolies. A great example of this is Pete Ashdown at Exmission. In fact, I encourage all of you to go watch the video where he talks about how he told the NSA that he was not going to honor their warrantless requests for subscriber information. He's one of the only ones that stood up to the NSA when that happened. So thank you.
Time for the audience question. It's a budget question. How's that? We seem to have beautiful parks, recreation centers, city pool. How about roads, essential services, personnel, salaries, benefits, all these things that rise and rise? How are you going to handle those issues under the everyday budget requirements of the city?
Thank you for that question. It's very important that those services are provided for the citizens. That's part of the reason we pay for the government. I believe that with the funds that we have there, that this is really a spending issue rather than a revenue issue. I believe that we need to look at how we're spending our money. Right now, all of our enterprise funds are up. I believe that money is there to work on roads, not fully, but to plan ahead. I believe that we can do that. Second of all, on personnel, I believe that the personnel deserve a raise, particularly those that make under $100,000. I would give a 1% cost of living raise and a 1% merit raise. Our employees are some of the best that I've ever met. We've gone and met with them in the planning division. We've met with the firefighters. We've met with the police. We've met with the parks. We have wonderful employees, and I support them fully. I believe that what we need to do is to allocate our funds properly. Spending $8 million a year towards Utopia and not spending that towards apparatus that the firefighters need, or apparatus that the police need, or helping to fund Fire Station number 4, I believe is going the wrong direction. Our west side is growing. We've talked about Fire Station number 4 for 8 years now. We have 3 acres over there. I think it's time to put a plan in place that we build Fire Station number 4 to protect our citizens. I believe that we have the resources available to us to work with the different requirements within our city. As I explained earlier, our revenues are up. Our bond debt is actually down by $2.5 million. Some of our special funds are up by $1 million each. Our debt fund is up by $1 million in 2012. Our RDA fund is up by $1 million in 2012. I believe it's time to use some of this money for the purposes intended, and I would do so. Thank you.
Well, I think it again goes back to economic development. One of the things I want to do is create that Economic Development Advisory Council. If you have healthy revenues, it's much easier to manage that budget. We need to have a healthy economy here in Orem. We need to make sure that we're resolving any inefficiencies within our city government. Mayor Evans actually commissioned a group of local business leaders. In fact, I believe, Tom, you were on that group, and they looked for areas where we could make cuts and improvements. We need to constantly be vigilant in looking for those opportunities where we can make things better within our government. Utopia clearly is the elephant in the room. Todd Marriott, as I mentioned in my previous answer, is actively looking for a short-term solution to that, and I think we are going to make ground on that very quickly. A public-private partnership that will help alleviate that strain on our budget. Regarding our employees, Haas Institute takes a look at our employee pay every year. Well, I'm not sure if it's every year, but they regularly look at our employee pay. The last report just came in recently. They're currently being paid at 92% of the average. I agree with Mr. Bruntz. We need to take care of our employees. They are the most vital resource that we have as a city to make sure that you are taken care of and that the services are delivered to you as citizens. Thank you.
We'll now take 90-minute closing statements, and I hope you'll tell us, candidates. Seconds. Ha! Sorry. I'm glad you're listening. I was wondering. So tell us why Orem will be a better place and how we're going to prosper better if you are elected mayor.
Thank you. Orem is a great place to live. I have loved being here. I would have to say that every time I go to city council and hear someone speak about an issue that concerns them, invariably they will say, "We love living in Orem. It's a great place to raise a family." I want to keep it that way. As mayor, I would do several things. I would fight against tax increases unless they're absolutely necessary. I would encourage citizen involvement. I would like the citizens to know more about what's coming, what's happening, and I would like the city government to listen to them. To that extent, as mayor, I would go out once a month and hold a mayor's meeting at various parts of the city and just listen to what the citizens have to say. I'm interested in solving problems, not just the same old way, but actually taking action. As a business owner, I have to see what the problem is, I have to take action, and I have to make it happen. I believe I can do that here in the city of Orem. I will walk the streets of Orem and meet with the businesses. As a candidate, I've done that. I've been amazed when I talk to them and say, has a city council person been out to see you? Has the mayor been out to see you? Have you had attention? A lot of times the answer is no. I will work hard to find a solution for Utopia. I'm working hard on a solution for Midtown Village. I've been meeting with the owners of that. I've brought developer to that situation. I've challenged them to finish apartments, and they've finished 3 since I've met with them. I will find solutions for a way to get Fire Station 4 number built. I believe that we have great things that are going to happen here in Orem, and I will be there to make it happen. Thank you.
A giant round of applause for those mayoral candidates. Thank you. Oh, I've got one more.
Yes.
Get up. Don't sit back there drinking water. Get up and speak.
Mark was ready to move on to the council, as am I. I'm excited to hear what they have to say. I, too, am going to hold regular town hall meetings. I think communication is actually one of the biggest problems that we have in our city. There's a lot of misinformation out there. If we could just get the facts out there, have an open discussion. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I love my job because I get the opportunity to negotiate and bring parties together to find solutions. I think the answers to the challenges that are faced right here in Orem the answers are right there out there in the crowd with you guys, and we will have those regular town hall meetings. I know it's hard to see, but economic development has momentum right now in our city. There are so many things happening right now that the citizens aren't even aware of. Because of that process, it takes time for them to work on contracts and work on things, and that news to get to you. We need to keep that momentum going to improve our economy. I've enjoyed meeting so many of you. You have given me great hope for our city. Challenges make us better and refine us. Together we can lift up Orem and make it better for all of us. On November 5th, I'm asking you to go to the ballot, and don't let fear be your deciding vote. Let it be hope. Thank you for coming out tonight and participating in this process. I appreciate all of you.
Now, thank you. Okay, our mayoral candidates have asked to be excused from the stage. Should we let them? Okay, all right. I know I'll be less nervous. Our city council candidates, in the order they appear on the ballot, just raise your hand and wave when I read your name. Mary Street, Brent Sumner, David M. Spencer, Tom McDonald, Sharon Price Anderson, Wayne Burr. Did we get them all? Okay. Their names are on these slips, and so the mayors are now out, and the council is now in, and we will start figuring out what the order is going to be. They'll have opening statements, and they will be in this. I'll draw a couple of them, and we'll start with there, and then I'll draw some more. So, first, Wayne Burr, followed by Brent Sumner. Then I'll draw some more.
Okay, my name is Wayne Burr, and I have lived in Orem all my life, and I love Orem. I used to go across the street on 4th West and hunt pheasants and quail and different things like that. So I've seen Orem grow up quite a bit. And I'm one that am interested in what the public wants in their lives. One of my issues is that it is not proper for someone to give up their money through taxes who has earned it and give it to another person who has not earned it for their entertainment or different things that they want personally. Now, there are issues in government that we need to pay for, and we know that that is police, fire, and of course sewer and water, things like that. Those are the basic ideas that government should respond to us for. I believe that government has encroached on our private property too much. The Constitution gives us the right to own and control property. And many of those ideas are gone because of taxation, issuing of licenses to do different things. And so I'm for giving back to the people their control over their property. I am also interested in allowing the citizens to vote on their taxes. I'm the one that initiated the tax petition that allows you to have the right to vote for the tax. Now, if you for the property tax, if you desire to have the property tax, you can vote for it, and then I would administer that in the spirit it is given. I am personally not for raising taxes. I think we are taxed too much. When we have well, my time's ended, so I'll answer that question later.
Good evening. I'm Brent Sumner, and I want to thank all of you for coming tonight and show your interest in the new leaders come the first of the year. This is a great group of people up here, and they're all worthy of being considered for your vote. I want to give a special thanks to the Orem Chamber of Commerce for putting this on tonight. In fact, the Chamber of Commerce is very dear to my heart. I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce for over 35 years. I served 17 years on the board of directors. And Mr. Berg talked about how long he's lived around here, but I want to tell you, I rode my horse where the University Mall is. That's how long I've been around. And one of my grandchildren asked me the other day when I told him that story, he said, well, how'd you get across the freeway? And so, yeah, I'm a lifetime Orem resident. I've served on numerous civic clubs in the community, volunteer commissions. I was on the baseball commission for 15 years, served as commissioner for 2 years. Needless to say, I love Orem, and I just want to give back to this very fine community. I just can't say enough good about what we have going for us. I'm a lifetime resident, as I mentioned, a BYU graduate, and a business owner for over 30 years. I was a member of the Daily Herald management team where we was responsible for $1 million budgets. And I know how to squeeze the green out of money. I'm a very conservative person. Serving on the Orem City Council has been a wonderful experience the past 3.5 years. We've faced some very difficult decisions. The economy has been real slow, as all of you know. But we've weathered through that, and we're just turning the corner, and some good things are happening in Orem. And I'm so proud to be part of that group of city council members and what they've done. And I would appreciate any questions or concerns that you have of me, and talk to me after.
Sharon Anderson, followed by Tom McDonald.
My name is Sharon Price Anderson, and I always hasten to mention that's not a hyphenated name. But I am so thrilled to be involved in this process of this campaign and choosing new people for our city council. I do love Orem, and I love communicating and connecting with the citizens. Thank you for being here tonight. One of my favorite things to discuss with you is, what are your concerns about Orem? And I kind of keep an informal tally of those concerns. So here's my informal report on the things that are of concern to you citizens. And the ones that are at the top and bigger are the ones that are mentioned more frequently. And as we get down to the bottom, I'm still trying to squeeze things in. I might need to get a bigger chart. But you can see that from looking at this, that while we love Orem, there are some concerns, and Orem is not a perfect place. So we can make some improvements. One of my concerns about Orem is the things that have been taking place where the city has been involved in private enterprise. And the city's been trying to determine what's going to be successful and what's not. The result is not always in your best interest. And I see things like subsidies going to University Mall. If you divided the total subsidies that have gone to the mall and divided by the number of households in Orem, every family's paid $635 to subsidize that enterprise. We have Utopia, we have Midtown Village. So there are some concerns out there, and I hope to be able to help you address those. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Most of you have been to multiples of these events before, and I thank you for being here, for your interest. Today, I typically will talk about some of my abilities and skill sets, and that's an uncomfortable thing for me to do. So let me just tell you, I've been involved in running businesses at the president and vice president level, and I've seen them turn around and be successful. I believe some of that skill set is transferable to city operations, and perhaps now more than ever, Orem could use it. But in the last few days, as I've watched our federal government, I've changed what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. We see people from both ends of the government go on CNN and Fox News and in a childish way belittle one another. And then they're surprised when they can't work together in a spirit of peace and harmony. It just doesn't work well. Sometimes when you see mistakes of others, you're tempted to belittle them or their views. At times like that, I try to remember what my mother taught me, to play nice and be good to one another. I believe we need a city council that will work together in harmony, and from time to time, that has not been the case. That's why you won't see me producing literature or telling you who you should not vote for, but rather why you should vote for me. If I'm elected, I will attempt to work together as a consensus builder, which I've been in business and throughout life. I will attempt to build bridges rather than walls. I will vote for people that I believe will listen to the people and will play nice with one another. Tonight, I present myself as someone capable of setting a vision for the city and commit and pledge to carry it out in a spirit of harmony. My name is Tom McDonald. I ask for your vote and your support. Thank you.
David Spencer, followed by Mary Street.
Good evening. I'm David Spencer, and I'm running for Orem City Council. I'd like to have everybody stand up, please, if they would. Everybody take 2 steps this way, to the right, or to your left. And then you can go ahead and sit down. You know, a good city councilman can move his audience. Thank you. So I'm married to Julie Crandall. She's in the back in the blue, and I appreciate her. I love her very much, and we just celebrated our 21st anniversary yesterday. So that was, you should clap for her, and because she's lived with me for 21 years. We have 4 children, Casey, Hannah, Taylor, and Maddie, and they're all a handful. We have 2 teenagers. I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the Air Force, and he was a fighter pilot in Vietnam, and he served his country for 28 years. And I love my country, and I love Orem. I graduated from BYU in mathematics, so now I work for an international shipping company, so I do imports and exports all over the world. And our big customers would be RC Willey or Little Giant Ladder, Overstock.com. I love baseball. I serve on the baseball board right now, and right now I serve, I do run the Snack Shack. So we remodeled it 2 years ago so we could get some revenue for the boys so we can get new equipment. Because we are a struggling organization, and we do not get any care tax money for that. Sure, Orem has its challenges, and instead of looking in the past and dwelling on problems, we need to unite and look towards the future. Looking forward, we have these issues: Utopia, property tax increase, care tax, Midtown Village, Center for Story, and electing a new mayor and new city councilman. All these issues need to be dealt with head on. I am running for city council to look out and protect the citizens of Orem and all my neighbors and friends. My pledge is to listen, to use common sense, be transparent, and be honest to the people of Orem. I am David Spencer, and I hope I can get your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Mary, I'm going to let you talk. I am. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Mary Street, and thank you, as others have said, thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event tonight, and thank you to all of you for being here, and thank you to my fellow candidates for going through this process. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about me first, and then I want to focus on you. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. People ask me what brought you to Utah, and I tell them I met a boy from American Fork, and the rest is history, and that's true. My husband, Bill, and I have 7 kids, and we now have 5 grandchildren, and yes, I am not old enough to have 5 grandchildren, but I do. We've lived in the same cul-de-sac. So I moved here about 20 years ago, and I've lived in the same cul-de-sac now for 19 years. We've been involved in the community. My husband has served alongside Dave Spencer on Orem Youth Baseball. I served on the Orem City Planning Commission for 4 years, and now I am an incumbent and running for re-election because I've served for 3.5 years on the City Council. In addition to volunteering at the local level, I volunteer at the state level. I'm a member of the Envision Utah Partnership Board, and this past year I was appointed by Governor Herbert to serve on the Governor's Commission on Aging for the state of Utah. In my spare time, when I'm not doing those things, I also run a successful business. I am a commercial real estate broker, and I'm involved in economic development projects not only around Utah Valley, but also around the state. So that's a little bit about me. But now let me ask you a question about you. Would you please raise your hand for me if you are a parent? If you have children, raise your hand. Now look around and see how many hands there are. I think that's almost every single one of us. The reason we are all here, the reason I am here, the reason I'm running for re-election for City Council is that we need to be concerned with the community that we're building for our children. And those topics, everything we talk about tonight, we need to keep that front and center. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Now we can ask some other questions. Actually, they're the same questions the mayor's answered. We'll just go through them. And I'll draw again, so we'll have a random order for each question. So I'll draw a couple more. And it is Mary Street and David Spencer will be our first two. And the first question is, our communities have become aggressive in economic development efforts to lure businesses into their communities. What's your philosophy? How will you protect existing and grow new businesses in Orem?
Thank you. I think that's an absolutely great question, and it's one that I like to talk about because I deal with it on a daily basis. So first of all, let's define, so that we're all on the same page, what is economic development? Because when we're all talking about it, it's helpful if we all see the same mental picture. Economic development refers to the sustained, concerted efforts of both policymakers and community members working together to promote a standard of living and economic health for our area. It focuses on human capital and education. It focuses on critical infrastructure for our community, regional competitiveness, environmental sustainability, public health and safety. All of those things are critical for economic development. For our companies for our businesses, our retailers, and our companies to be strong and healthy in our community, we need all of those other pieces to be strong and healthy. When companies look at coming to Utah Valley or to coming to Orem, they consider all those aspects of the community. They want to know, is this a place where my employees want to live? Is this where they want to raise their children? Is there an educational infrastructure in place that will support the viability of my business? So when we talk about economic development, when we talk about subsidies, think to yourself about companies in our valley like Micron, Adobe, Cabela's. How did those companies end up where they are? One of our candidates suggested that our property taxes in Orem are preventing companies like that from coming into our area. But that's actually not the case, because Lehigh has higher property taxes than we do in Orem. So why did we not get a Cabela's? We have to be regionally competitive. It's not a one-size-fits-all answer on economic development. Keep our families front and center and think about what it takes as a community to bring jobs here.
My plan for economic development would be, we have 2 universities, just a stone throw away. We need to make sure we use those universities with these graduates, that we can lure new business to Orem. Also, the one thing about economic development that we have a problem with right now in Orem is our sign ordinance. It's been going on for quite a while now, and I guess they should be making some changes here recently, but it's been a detriment to the businesses on State Street and in Orem. That has to change. With the universities, we have a huge talent pool, and as Dick Brunt said, we are an incubator for new businesses, and we need to make sure that we keep the businesses here. Now, the current mayor and current city council, they've been sitting on the council, and we've lost Omniture and Adobe. We've lost Exactware, or they are moving. doTERRA. These are like 2,000 jobs moving from Orem. We also have Kengarf, Porsche, and Audi that will be moving shortly. So these are things that we have to get our butts out of the chair and talk to these businesses so we don't lose our base. So the bottom line is, we need to get out and talk to the businessmen and women and see exactly what they need. And then also make sure that we take care of businesses in Orem. Randy Parks is going out of business, and what a shame that we couldn't help him stay in business. He's been a fixture on that north end for a long time. Thank you.
Tom McDonald, followed by Sharon Anderson.
This is one of my favorite topics to talk about because I've spent my career doing economic development. For those of you who don't know my background, my partners and I purchased the Word Perfect campus in North Orem from Novell about a dozen years ago. At the time we acquired that property, there were about 2,000 people going to work there. So I didn't just practice economic development from a theoretical stance, I practiced it from an economic reality stance. We needed more tenants in our place in order to survive. We did it without any economic help from the city, although they were easy to work with, and for which I'm grateful for the city manager and the mayor, who were then city manager and mayor, and I was grateful for their support. But we did it by listening to our people. Both of the mayoral candidates have talked about having sit-in council with various business leaders to try to find out what their needs are. That's exactly what we did at Canyon Park. We invited all the top tenants in and a representative of the smaller tenants so we could hear them and listen to them and make sure we were providing the support they needed. We grew from 2,000 people going to work there to 7,000 people going to work there. While I was away, Adobe was captured by another group with some tax incentives, but largely we were able to keep people there by listening to their needs, being responsible business people who listened and carried them out. I think we need to do the same thing as a leader. Early on, I talked to both mayoral candidate Bruntz and mayoral candidate Chris Nichols. And I told them the same thing, that I would love to be involved. I'm a businessman. I think I know how to listen to people. If we listen and we respond and we do the things we ought to do, we need to take a back seat to no one. Thank you.
I believe that small business is the heart of Orem, and it concerns me not only when these large businesses leave, but I feel sad to see small businesses shut down. And I think part of the reason this is happening is because we don't have a very good track record with nurturing small businesses. We've heard a little bit about the sign ordinance tonight, and that is a concern. I'm also concerned when the city council tries to regulate businesses too much, and that is not just with the sign ordinance. The city has, for example, in August, the city proposed changing some permitted uses in the commercial zones and some zones down by Geneva Road. Now, the property owners, the business owners that were going to be affected did not know this was taking place. And when the council was asked, were they notified? We were told, or though everyone in the room was told, that the public notice had been posted in the newspaper, and that's what was required by law, and that should work. Well, I don't know how many people read the public notices. I do not. And I suggested that maybe these businesses deserve to be informed about what's happening with their property. And I was dismayed when someone said that if we wanted the law changed, we ought to go up to Salt Lake City and start legislating and doing those things to change the law. I think as a community, we need to treat each other, treat businesses like we would like to be treated, and nurture these businesses and help them be successful. Modify the sign ordinance, and that is in the works, but there are still a lot of issues that need to be addressed. Thanks.
Wayne Burr, Brent Sumner.
It is important for us to look at our businesses and to get out of their way for the most part. We always want to talk about bringing businesses into Orem, but one of the problems is when we tax the citizenry to bring those businesses into Orem, we start getting a problem like this one here, where that's the last 14 years, the population in Orem's gone up 6%, but our debt has gone up 430%. And so the idea is that if we want to bring business into Orem, and of course we can see how that works with Utopia, and it has not worked well, that we learn to stay out of the way of business and give them the right to work their own business without regulating them to death. And one of the things that we've done lately, and it has been brought up before, is the sign ordinance. And so we don't need these sign ordinances. These are private properties we're dealing with when you have a private business or private organizations. They should be able to decide what goes on that property and what should be, what kind of businesses should come in here. Now, we do have businesses that we should regulate morally, and that is okay. But we should allow businesses to go ahead and do what they need to do. When we lowered taxes on business, I remember during the Reagan era, when Reagan lowered the taxes on business, they started to get more revenues in. So raising taxes stifles revenue to the city. So I say that we need to get out of the way of business, let business do business as they know how to do it, and not have government in the works trying to tell them how to make their business work. And that we work together in allowing this to happen and to let people just be them or themselves in their own business.
As I mentioned in my opening statement, I've been in the small business world for over 30 years, close to 40 years. I know what it's like to be a small business owner. I had a maximum of 12 employees at a time, and I know what it takes to operate, to meet a payroll of a small business. I was on the Daily Herald management team, working with $1 million budgets, so I've had a broad spectrum of experience. The City Council and the city is just not lying back and doing nothing. Just recently, a couple of months ago, the City Council approved an 88-acre Class A business park on 1300 North and Geneva Road. This park will be anything from financial institutions to home improvement centers. Staff in the city are helping existing business to grow, and the council has given city staff a charge to recruit new businesses to Orem. One untapped resource that I'd like to see tapped into, we currently have 4,076 business licenses in Orem. Of those, 1,671 are home businesses. Many of these need our help, which we can give them help through the Provo Orem Chamber of Commerce. Some of those I know want to expand out on State Street, and who knows, they may be the next Adobe. We have several businesses in this city that want to expand, and I would like to go after those businesses and see if they want to improve their facilities within Orem. The city is business friendly. The council will approve next week a new sign ordinance that's been in the works for over a year. This has been having comments from the Beautification Commission, from citizens, from small businesses, from large businesses. We're a country, we're a city of regulations and ordinances. We have to have some kind of control to keep a civil country and city. Thank you.
This is the question about the care tax initiative. Do you remember the question? All right, you've heard it before. And our first two will be Sharon Anderson, Brent Sumner.
First of all, I think it's right that in November you will get to vote whether or not you want the care tax. So it's going to be up to you. So let me say that it's very hard for any two people to agree on everything. So if you vote for the care tax, I can still love you. But let me tell you why I won't vote for the care tax. If you read the language on the ballot, it's interesting because it says in the language that the city will be authorized to impose a sales and use tax. And authorized and imposed, it is imposed upon everyone. If everyone has to pay the care tax, not everyone will benefit from what the care tax offers. So in principle, I don't think it's right, because I don't think I should take your money to do something that I want to do. And I don't think, you might disagree, you might want to do something else. So I think we each need to be able to make those decisions for ourselves. That said, let me tell you that I love the arts. I'm a writer and a photographer, and I believe that in our community here, without the care tax, we will not let art die. I think there's enough talent in this valley, creativity to figure out how to make it work. And I can see creative things happening to promote the arts, maybe a Utah Valley's Got Talent or something like that. Anyway, I think if we work together and support with our tickets and our purchases, that we would not even have to use the care tax. It sounds small, but all in all, it's about $1.7 million. So even though it sounds small, it's a big chunk of money. Thanks.
This last spring, when the care tax was being discussed within the city council and the awards were going out, I was assigned by Mayor Evans to sit and evaluate or take applications on the small grants, which is the $4,999 grant. Now, these are small amounts of money, but without them, groups like the Latinos in Action, Roots of Freedom, Institute for Young Dramatic Voices, and the Colonial Heritage Foundation could not exist to the level that they exist with this additional funds. Talk about economic development. The Colonial Festival of over 3 days drew over 40,000 people to our community. Half of those were outside of Orem. They're spending money within our community. The CARE money is going to expand our Orem Recreation Center. 500,000 people go through those doors every year, and most of them Orem citizens and many of them you. A $3.2 million addition that'll have a child-friendly pool and slides, interactive pool toys, a 20-foot lazy river, remodel of locker rooms, and much more. It is estimated, as I mentioned earlier, that half the money for the CARE tax comes from outside purchases. That's people outside our community. So Orem citizens aren't paying the whole freight on that. It's 1 penny for every $10 you spend. In my opinion, I'm willing to pay that to help the arts, to help the recreation, help the CIRA, which has expanded sevenfold since the CARE tax was started. They have 70 programs. 18,000 youth went through their programs this past year. Many of them your kids, my grandkids. I want that. The CIRA can't do that, and those individual groups can't do that without some kind of help. Thank you.
David Spencer, followed by Tom McDonald.
My position on the CARE tax is everyone gets to vote on it November 5th, and that's a great thing that we can do. My stance on the CARE tax is I don't have a problem with the CARE tax as it is, but I have a problem with the way the funds have been allocated for the last 8 years. I don't think it's been fair. As a Orem Youth Baseball, 501(c), we cannot get a dime because of the way the law is written, and that's fine. That's why I do the Snack Shack, and we make money that way. But with the CARE tax, if you're a 501(c) and you're outside of Orem and you're a dance company, you can come and get $4,999. To me, that's not right. It's our CARE taxes in Orem, and we keep our money in Orem and take care of our Orem businesses and recreation and arts that are in Orem, period. So that's my stance. I'm 100% for the CARE tax, and the bottom line is, I said that again, bottom line, but is the youth. That's why I volunteer my time, and we need to make sure we take care of the youth and make sure we give them things to do so they don't have idle time and they don't get in trouble. Thank you.
Good evening. I believe you've heard enough about the CARE tax, and really you'll get to make that decision. We get 6 votes, you get 300 votes, or however many are here this evening. So I think you've heard the discussion. Should we allocate it differently? And I think the City Council is taking some steps, has already taken some steps to make sure there's more citizen involvement in the distribution. I believe my culture is not as refined as my wife. For me, cultural means a basketball standard at each end of a cultural hall, and so I am limited. I am not as culturally refined. I like the arts, but I also like recreation, and I like culture. So the question you get to ask is, will you spend some money so that people, frankly, who might be less privileged? One of the things of serving in nonprofit organizations you get to see is you see people who come from drastically different economic situations than perhaps some of us in this room. Perhaps some of you are in that position. But most of us drove here in a vehicle, others don't have that. And so I'm grateful to spend 1/10 of a cent as I make a small purchase to helping people with arts and recreation. But it really is the job of the City Council to allocate funds judiciously, whether they're a little bit or a lot. You make the decision. I will be a prudent steward of the allocation of the funds. But if you choose to put a few extra dollars into the culture, the arts, and the recreation, we'll try to make sure that that's allocated fairly and makes our city a better place to live. I really believe CARE tax is about economic development. When we were bringing companies into our business from out of state, they didn't ask much about property tax. They asked, what kind of cultural opportunities are there here for our people? And that was a selling pitch, when we could sell them on the hiking and the biking and the skiing and the arts. For a little town, we have a lot going for us. Let's keep Orem one of the best hometowns in America. Thank you.
Wayne Burr, Mary Street.
I know the care tax is billed as just a little bit of taxes, 1/10 of 1%. And some of you remember the situation a few years back where, and I don't blame the police for this, but I blame those who make the laws, that this 72-year-old woman had a dry lawn, so it means she can't afford to water the lawn. And before they got through with that situation with her, the policeman, she went in to call her son, the policeman tackled her and handcuffed her and put her in jail. Now, the mayor took care of that and said, let her go. But see, that's what we run into. And so I believe that there are different ways for the arts. I love the arts too. I have a son-in-law that is an artist. And he it's tough for him to make money, but he makes money. He does a good job. But he wouldn't, in his wildest dreams, want to tax us to support him in his artistry. And so the idea that we have arts, maybe we ought to look at it a different way. All churches work on donated funds. Maybe we can work with that idea through the bills that go out. Will you donate to the arts? We can do it that way. Or, I have a feeling that taxes sometimes stifle incentive. And so the idea, take for example the Health Theater. They have said that they don't need the tax money that they receive. They can do things on their own, yet we give them tax money. So I'm for the arts. I think there are different ways of funding it, and that would be my direction. Thank you.
I'm going to make no bones about it. I support the cultural arts and recreation tax, and I want to tell you why. Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. The reason I support it is because I can see the good that it does in the community. I have raised 7 kids in Orem, and every one of my children, and I would suspect, whether you realize it or not, every one of you has benefited from having cultural arts and recreations in our community. So let me explain one thing. I wanted to respond to something that Mr. Spencer said about Orem Youth Baseball not being able to qualify. The state law says that care tax funds can be used for city-owned facilities like baseball fields and for private cultural arts programming. So we cannot use, because of the state law, we cannot use the care tax funds in order to pay for recreation programming. So we cannot give the money to pay for uniforms for baseball, but what we can do is use the money to pay for and support the ball fields. Let me tell you a quick story, and I hope I don't run out of time. One day I was sitting over in the stands on Field 1, eating sunflower seeds and keeping the scorebook, which is what I did. I was a total baseball mom when my kids were playing. And a gentleman came and sat down next to me in the stands. And I asked him after a minute, I said, do you have a grandson playing out here? He was elderly. And I said, do you have a grandson playing? And he said, no. I happened to be over at the city center, and I've got a meeting coming up in about an hour. And I saw kids playing baseball, and I wanted to come watch. That's what it's all about in this community. We all give a little bit and support one another. I don't think that it's fair or accurate to say that we don't benefit. We all benefit when our children benefit. Thank you.
We're going to try and use what time we have left as expeditiously as we can. You understand the Utopia question. Be brief, but state your positions on it. Tom McDonald, followed by Mary Street.
Utopia is impossible to answer in a 2-minute soundbite. You've heard this being talked about for a long, long time, and a lot of time and energy has gone into trying to figure out how we solve Utopia. I've said before, we can't call a mulligan. We have to play this where it lies. We have a ball sitting in the rough that's tough. With all good intentions, it got there, but so do every one of the drives I ever make in golf. And the good intentions don't always end up where they need to be. We need to do 3 or 4 different steps. First, we have to have a technological review of it. I'm not a technological expert, but there are people who can do that. We need a technological review. We need a business review. I don't know that we ought to be threatening everyone who works there with firing the day we get elected. I think we do need a management review to find out where we go, and can we sell our way out of this project? Can we get enough users and subscribers to make it work? I don't know that we can, but we better get an independent review of that. The independent audit did not address that issue. In fact, when I asked the independent auditor if he thought we could work through it, he said, I don't know. That was after 1.5 years of detailed review, so I'm saying this is not an easy answer. Step 3, we have to seek the legal remedies that are afforded to us, and I think that's already been expressed to you explicitly tonight about following suit over failed promises. And fourth and foremost, we need to be honest with ourselves about the devastation that would occur to the city of Orem if we attempt to walk away from it. I've inherited a lot of challenges in management in my life. And frankly, the reason I got jobs was because there were challenges. And now we need to work through them with a steady hand, with clear thinking, and with confidence we can solve it. I don't have the answers tonight, and frankly, no other candidate does. But I think I know how to get those answers. It's by practicing sound management and following through and holding people accountable. That's what I'll propose we do. Thank you.
I'd like to share a picture with you. Have you guys seen this? I hope you can see it in the back. And the title on the flyer says, "Is Mary Street to blame for Utopia?" Sometimes I feel like I have a huge target on my forehead because I have been a strong advocate of fiber optic infrastructure for our community. So just like I did with the CARE tax, I'm going to lay it out there. I support finishing the fiber optic infrastructure for the city of Orem. I'm not saying that we should, thank you, I appreciate that too. I'm not saying that we should continue to do things the way we have always done them. I think we should learn the lessons. I think we should learn from our mistakes, and we have. There have been many times, many crossroads in the history of what's happened with the city's involvement with the Utah Telecommunications and Open Infrastructure Agency, where there were things that were beyond the city's control. And I propose, and when I travel through the community talking with people and businesses about this, I get a very positive response when I say we need to make sure that we're making decisions with our fiber optic infrastructure that are on our time schedule, making sure that we protect Orem's interests, and making sure that we make it available to everyone in the city, because it is essential. The day that somebody told me that I have to log on to Skyward to check my kids' grades at school, I realized that internet access was absolutely essential for me. The jobs of the future that my children will earn a living at may not have been created yet. Just like when I was in college, there was no such thing as a debit card. Everybody wrote a check when I was in college. The jobs of the future depend upon technology. People often, especially amongst this group, reference the Constitution of the United States. I have it on my smartphone. The things that we need for the future will rely on fiber. I support it. Orem needs to make sure we finish it. Thank you.
David Spencer, Brent Sumner.
On Utopia, I'm not against technology or fiber. I'm against their business plan that they've had for 8 years, and it's been, I guess it's horrendous. But you have Utopia, and we have the bond that we're obligated to, and then we have the UIA, which is the company that puts the fiber in the ground. Now, we're tied with 11 cities, and out of those 11 cities, they've given loans to the UIA for $16 million. Well, Orem, over the years, we've given them $9 million. The problem I have is this budget period, this present city council and mayor, they wrote off $1.8 million. And next year, they're going to write up $2.1 million. And then again, in the same breath, they gave them $825,000 of a new loan. The Bank of Orem has to be closed, period, for Utopia. Now, I'm not saying that we have to go dark, because that is not a solution. The solution is to put it in maintenance mode, as Richard Brunch mentioned, who's running for mayor, and make sure that we take care of the customers that are on Utopia, get citizens groups, get resellers, and those that know the telecommunication industry in a room, and let's find a solution and somebody to buy Utopia so we can get out of this mess. Thank you.
When I got on the city council, this was the first thing that I was introduced to. It's a very, very complex problem. It's a problem we have to deal with. We can't look back. In fact, the city council last spring was given 7 choices to deal with Utopia, from going dark to maintaining mode. But the council unanimously decided to go forward with what we're doing now. It was the best option. The city owes the debt. It doesn't matter who you elect on this stand tonight. The city still owes that debt and will need to pay it. That's really not a topic of discussion. The city, if they don't pay their debt, they could lose their bonding, they could be sued by other cities, they could strand 3,000 Orem subscribers. So it's just not a solution that's easy to deal with. Currently, the new organization, which the Orem City Council and other Utopia members have implemented, this new business plan and management team is currently covering almost 100% of its expenses with the fiber network. Now, that's not counting the debt. We owe that. But we are moving forward in a positive direction. We have a 32% take rate in Orem for those that can get it. Our problem is we need to build it out, and we need to figure out how we can do that. Currently, there's some good news coming with Utopia and a possible private partner, but that will be announced in the very near future. A Google representative, a broadband pundit, Jesse Harris, said, "Fiber will help spur more competition in the regions where fiber appears." In other words, business comes where the fiber. A personal example, I own some property on State Street, some rentals. The first question he asked a year ago when he moved in is, "Do you have fiber?" No. Last month he moved out because there was no fiber available for this business. Thank you.
Sharon Anderson, Wayneburg.
I think, first of all, we need a city council that's willing to ask the hard questions. And what I've seen happening is just kind of rubber stamping and saying, let's throw more money at this problem, and surely it will eventually work out. When we attended the meeting with the auditor for Utopia, he mentioned that to fully wire the whole system would be $300 million. And I thought, my goodness, you tax all the people that much money and they won't be able to afford the service once it's wired. So it also distresses me that everyone has to pay for it and too many people cannot get it. But we're all paying for it, and that is a concern. I don't want it to go dark. Those that have it need to keep the service, but let's ask those tough questions. I hope to see Dick Brunston as mayor because he's already working on the solutions, and so I won't bore you and take more time by regurgitating some of those, but there are some possible ways to solve this problem so that we can unburden ourselves from Utopia.
Yeah, we need to not put any more money into Utopia. The city has, will have to forgive Utopia $9 million because they can't give it. They cannot give it to us. Yet we're putting more money into it. And the fact that there are people in Orem, and Utopia has said this, they cannot be wired. It is too difficult to dig through it. It's not feasible to give them the Utopia because they won't put it in that area because of how hard it is to get it in the ground. And so the idea that the city has made the idea that we can sell that, and even if we have to sell that at a loss and get it off the back of the taxpayers, we need to get rid of it. It is not a new utility, and that's kind of what's been tried to be pushed as. So we need to figure out how to sell it and do that aggressively, and just not put any more money into it. It's not a good business idea. That's when business and government get together, this kind of thing happens. And like was said, a lot of times they think, well, we can just throw more money at it until it works. It won't work as long as someone can't get it and they're paying for it for the rest of their life.
You want to know what's going to happen now? We're going to move right to closing statements. We just have to because of time. So, Sharon Anderson, followed by Mary Street.
Okay, I started out mentioning some things about small business and how they're the heart of our community, and I do believe that's the case. We've heard a few rumblings in our city about something big happening with University Mall, and I'd like to address another thing that I perceive to be of concern regarding that enterprise. It bothers me that all the city council and city staff have signed non-disclosure agreements regarding this project, and that they are not allowed to talk to us about something that may change our city forever. I think that the citizens need to be involved in the discussion and in the process. It concerns me when there are certain It concerns me that certain candidates have gotten very generous donations from the mall, and I wonder what's going on here. It concerns me that the National Association of Realtors has given $23,000 of cash and in-kind donations to one of the mayoral candidates. And I know part of the mall development is going to have an effect on realtors. So I would like some genuine transparency in our city. I think we as citizens need to be involved.
In the minute and a half that I have as a closing statement, I want to take just a second to make sure that because I have a fiduciary responsibility, not beyond just having basic integrity, to make sure that I disseminate accurate information. And I believe that when people have accurate information, they can make good decisions. You do need to know that the non-disclosure agreements that were signed by members of the city council and staff were because the mall is in negotiation with tenants. We are not bypassing the public process. In fact, I understand that the owners of University Mall have now filed their public applications to go through the Planning Commission. There will be a very, very public process. So just know, nothing has been circumvented. I want you to know that on November 5th, or if you vote early voting starts on October 22nd, when you go to the polls, the only decision you really need to make is who do you think will make decisions that are the most reflective of what you'd like to see happen in our community for the future of your children and your grandchildren. You're not going to agree with everyone on every issue. If I made everybody happy all the time, I'd be lying to 50% of the people out there. So I'm not going to do that. All you need to know about me is that I am a hard worker, I am honest, and I am absolutely dedicated to making sure that I research and understand and that I give you the best information I can. My name is Mary Street. I hope you'll give me one of your votes on November 5th.
Brent Sumner, Tom McDonald.
First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming tonight, and I want to set the record straight with the University Mall non-disclosure. I did not sign that statement, and for someone to say that I did, I resent that. Thank you for all attending tonight. I want you to think about someone that has the knowledge, the experience, the transparency, and commitment to serve on your city council. That definition fits me. I'm a very hard worker. I've been a successful small business owner. I've regulated and been responsible for $1 million budgets. I work in the academic world now at Utah Valley University. I've had a broad spectrum of experience, and I love giving back to this community. I've lived in it my entire life. My priorities as a member of the Orem City Council is to maintain or even improve our way of life and promote Orem as the best place to raise a family and do business. My wife, Becky Littlefield, is a lifetime resident. We are committed to Orem. Orem was named the #1 most optimistic area in the nation, the #2 in the nation for the safest metro area. The area was also named for #1 for business and careers. As a city council member, I've made progress on that, but I want to continue to do that. I'd like to have your vote November 5th, and I thank you very much for coming. And if you need any questions answered, call, email, come to my house. We can sit down and have a snack together. Thank you.
Good evening. With less than a week until early voting begins, the rubber's about to hit the road. I thank you for being here tonight and just taking a moment. Since I took my opening address and was talked a little bit about my frustration with the federal government, let me talk about my closing address and tell you why I'm here. My family moved to Orem from New York. My single-parent mother brought us here in hopes of finding a better life. This is where Kay Mangum McDonald and I raised our family. We have 4 children. Kay and I both graduated from Orem High. Our kids graduated from Orem High or Timpanogos. They've all gone on to BYU as Kay and I did. This is our home. I, with many like-minded citizen volunteers, have been working very hard with the hopes that I'll be one of your future city council representatives. My desire has just been to apply a pretty sensible, conservative approach that's served me well in my personal life and in business and in nonprofit organizations I've run to what the city needs right now. Sensible fiscal conservatism. At the end of 4 years, as Chuck Yeager says, in moments of truth, there are either reasons or results. I won't bring you reasons why we didn't succeed. I'll work with others to bring results. I believe this is one of the greatest towns in America, and I'm going to work hard to make sure it stays that way. My name is Tom McDonald. I ask for your vote and your support. Thank you.
Wayne Burr, David Spencer.
In 1998, 100% of our debt and our focus was on traditional spending. That's fire, police, and different things like that. But in 2013, we've got 52% that is traditional spending, and now we have 48% that are non-traditional. And that goes into Utopia and other problems that we've talked about tonight. Also, in 1998, the citizens was able to vote for 41% of what the budget goes to. But in 2013, we only voted for 13% of it. My focus would be to get back to the putting our money into traditional uses for our money, and that'll take time, but we need to go there. Government is our problem. There is just too much government. It encroaches on our private property. It takes our money for non-traditional budget items, and we need to be able to think of the poor among us and not keep taxing them when they can't even water their lawn. And so we just need to go back to what the government's supposed to do.
So I guess they saved the best for last. Thank you. I've made over 1,000 phone calls and walked mostly all the precincts, and Orem's a very big city. And in talking and speaking with people, you come across some funny stories. And I was talking to a couple the other day, and I'm talking about my stance is common sense, transparency and honesty. And I go, common sense, and the guy goes, I don't like common sense. And I step back and go, you don't like common sense? And he goes, no, I don't like common sense. And then his wife smacks him and goes, it's Common Core we don't like. So with that said, I've spoke to a lot of people, as I said, and I've talked to a lot of senior citizens. And we need to make sure that we take care of our seniors in Orem. We're a growing population in Orem, and we need to make sure we take care of them. People are frustrated with the city, that they're not representing them, and that they're catering to special interest groups. The definition of insanity is we keep doing the same thing over and over and think we're going to get a different result. That is utopia, and we need to stop utopia. We need to get back to the basics and stop spending money on wants. We need to stick to our core values, which are the police, fire, water, roads, and sewer. These are our needs. I will listen. I will give 110%. I will bring common sense, transparency, and honesty to the City Council and bring back our traditional values to the City of Orem as we are Family City USA. I am David Spencer, and I hope I can count on your vote November 5th. Thank you.
That was great. We have wonderful candidates. You've heard from them tonight. Let's thank them for being involved. There were a lot more questions. There were a lot of things I wish we could have covered. We did the best we could. Hopefully the candidates will be able to stay around for a few minutes and visit with you. Thank you for your interest in this community and in the civic-minded attitude you bring to helping improve it. Thank you. Good luck, candidates. Thank you for your presence here tonight.